Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
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 Gopi Janavara
Jaya Gopi Janavara
Jaya Gopi Janavara
Gopi Janavara
Yashodanandana Prajajanarandana
Yashodanandana Prajajanarandana
Yashodanandana Prajajanarandana
Yashodanandana Prajajanarandana
Yamunatira Yamunatira Vanachari
Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Gopi Janavara
Jaya Gopi Janavara Girivaradari Yashodanandana Prajajanarandana Yashodanandana Prajajanarandana Tira Manachari Yamunatira Vanachari
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Gaur Bhakti ki
Jai
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Jnanatimram Tasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupakada Mahyam Didati Svapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All right. Continuing today in chapter 25 of Canto 4, the characteristics of King Purañjana. They were covering text 20 through 25. And we heard there's an introduction to the chapter where Narada Muni's introducing this allegory. He's going to preach to this King Purañjana. And he's going to do so in a little bit of a unique way. Most of the Bhagavatam involves describing real persons of the past, like King Prahlad, King Dhruva, King Bharat. Narada Muni is also, his life is described in the Bhagavatam. King Priyavrata. There's so many histories. And the mistake that most modern scholars make is they take the Puranas, including the Bhagavad Purana, to be the whole thing mythological and allegorical. And that's not the case. Although in few select places there were allegories were used. Allegory is a good way to teach people. So Narada Muni is using that technique here of King Purañjana. And we heard that King Purañjana isn't just representative of King Pachinabharti, but all of us who are trying to lord it over the material energy. So I'd like to read the texts. All of the texts. There's 6 texts we're gonna cover today. We'll read it. We'll hear. This is where we hear Purañjana. He's been wandering around, trying to enjoy in his body, trying to find a suitable place to live, and finally, his wandering bears fruit. He finds a beautiful woman, and so that's what we're hearing about today. That initial moment of encounter, and then in the next couple of days we'll start to hear about the conversation that took place. Now this woman, she symbolizes the intelligence, because the intelligence is it's an energy of the Lord that is given to the jiva, to, just like the material body is the Lord's energy given to the jiva to use, to drive around in. And the intelligence appears to be very attractive to us. Everyone thinks that their own way of thinking is the best, is so nice. If only everyone else could think the same way I do, then the world would be a much better place, right? You have all the different people of the different parties, the different social movements, and everyone's thinking, I've got the best way of seeing the world. So that's the buddhi, the intelligence. And the intelligence, the business of the intelligence is to constantly show all these different ideas and opportunities for sensual enjoyment. Hey, what if we did this today? Wow, that'd be great. I'm gonna have Eggo waffles. That'll make me feel good in the morning, whatever it might be. And the intelligence is constantly giving so many, propositioning so many ideas for enjoyment. So that's what the woman represents. And now we'll hear the verses and discuss a little bit more. Text 20. I'll just read the Sanskrit of this one. Yadrichayagatam tatra dadarsha pramadotamam Vrityardashabhir ayantim ekaika shatanayakai. While wandering here and there in that wonderful garden, King Purañjana suddenly came in contact with a very beautiful woman who was walking there without any engagement. She had 10 servants with her, and each servant had hundreds of wives accompanying him. The woman was protected, text 21, the woman was protected on all sides by a 5-hooded snake. She was very beautiful and young, and she appeared very anxious to find a a suitable husband. 22. The woman's nose, teeth, and forehead were all very beautiful. Her ears were equally very beautiful and were bedecked with dazzling earrings. 23. The waist and hips of the woman were very beautiful. She was dressed in a yellow sari with a golden belt. While she walked, her ankle bells rang. She appeared exactly like a denizen of the heavens. Text 24. With the end of her sari, the woman was trying to cover her breasts, which were equally round and well placed side by side. She again and again tried to cover them out of shyness, while she walked exactly like a great elephant. Text 25. Sorry, I'll just say that in our modern cultural context, comparing a beautiful woman to an elephant wouldn't be taken the same way, would it?
No.
Drunken elephant.
My, aren't you like a drunken elephant? So where is this coming from? So elephants, they saunter, and it's kind of like a this very slow moving gait that's like very like, yeah,
The
kind
hips.
of back and forth, and so it exaggerates the bodily features. That's what's being compared to here.
It's a bit reassuring.
Yeah. Otherwise, it just kind of throws you for a loop. She's a what? Okay. And text 25, where we're stopping today. Purañjana, the hero, became attracted by the eyebrows and smiling face of the very beautiful girl, and was immediately pierced by the arrows of her lusty desires. When she smiled shyly, she looked very beautiful to Purañjana, who, although a hero, could not refrain from addressing her. So that's where we're going to stop today. Now we'll discuss some of the significance of the woman who represents the intelligence. Everything in here is giving some indication, some insight about how the intelligence is interacting with the spirit soul. So, and we're closing on a little bit of a cliffhanger because Purañjana is about to address her.
What does he
So,
say?
yeah, tune in tomorrow. Watch next time on Harmony Collective to find out what Purañjana tells this woman, how he addresses her. All right. So back to text 20. So while wandering here and there, this is text 20. While wandering here and there in that wonderful garden, King Purañjana suddenly came in contact with a very beautiful woman who was walking without any engagement. She had 10 servants with her, and each servant had hundreds of wives accompanying him. So, let me just pull up my notes here. All right. So the 10 servants of the woman, of the intelligence, does anyone have any guess what 10 servants might represent? 10 servants of the intelligence?
The 10 knowledge acquiring senses.
Yeah, ding, 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 ding. You won. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. The 10 knowledge acquiring senses and action senses. They're called Gyan Indriyas and Karma Indriyas. Indriya means senses, and Gyan and Karma is knowledge and action. And so those are what are the knowledge acquiring senses? How do we acquire knowledge? What are the senses?
Eyes,
The
nose.
the ear, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the sense of taste, and the skin, the sense of touch. Okay, that's the 5 knowledge acquiring senses. The 5 action senses, I always forget these. It's like the hands, the legs, the organ of procreation, and the organ of evacuation. And there's a 5th one. Maybe also the tongue for speaking, maybe. I have to review that one. So these are serving the intelligence in so many ways, and giving the ability to execute the desires. So the intelligence is coming up with all of these plans for how we're going to enjoy our life, and then the senses are the servants that carry out those plans. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his commentary, says that the intelligence should not be exposed to enjoyable objects. If one by accident contacts them, he should repent. So this is not that we just live in a box with like with a thing over our head and our ears plugged and I don't want to hear anything enjoyable. The point is that we should not allow our intelligence to just have free reign going over the world. The other day I gave the analogy, I compared the mind to like a helicopter that kind of hovers over, I think this was a Sunday class, the mind's like a helicopter that just hovers over the sense objects. Thinking I might want to pick that one up today. Now we're hovering over a member of the opposite sex. How attractive, how nice. So we don't want to give our intelligence free reign. We want to keep it on a tight leash, that we're only contemplating things that are actually going to uplift us and take us where we want to go. And if by chance we find that our mind or our intelligence is getting into stuff where it shouldn't, geez, oh man, wonder if I could maybe just pop into that restaurant and order this and that, and even though you'll feel sick afterwards, or whatever are the particular our particular vices that distract us from, not just from Krishna, but also from an upright life. Everyone can relate, even if for people who don't believe in God or don't believe in Krishna, the principle of sense control is extremely relevant. That not only does our wandering mind, our wandering intelligence keep us from our spiritual life, but it also distracts us from our real goals. How many times have we said, okay, now I'm going to be like this, or now I'm going to do this, but the wandering mind, the wandering intelligence has a different plan for us. And because it's very attractive, just like a beautiful woman, or if you're a woman, you can think just like a beautiful man. Because it's very attractive, it entices, it brings out the enjoying spirit. It draws that enjoying spirit out of us, and we think, yeah, maybe I am an enjoyer. Who needs Krishna? I got this. Yeah, it's so easy, So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says we should repent. So that means that we should recognize that it was a mistake and kind of repent. Like, man, that was dumb. What did I really get out of that? That wasn't worth it. I'm not going to do that again. And even if we have to say that again and again and again, I'm not going to do it again. It's like my daughter. She's naughty sometimes. And then she says, Dad, I'm not going to be naughty anymore. And every time I say, good job, Janaki. And I know that it may not be true, but just the habit of saying that is good, because most people, they can't even think that that's a good thing to give up naughtiness.
I'm not going to get caught next time.
yeah, exactly. I'm not going to get caught next time. I'm not going to let you know, or I'm just going to not hang out with you anymore because you don't like the way I like to do things. So it's the goodness in us that allows us to recognize when we've done something wrong, that wasn't helpful for ourselves, that wasn't uplifting. This whole concept of piety and sin, it's all very much oriented around what's actually helpful for the individual, what will actually bring the individual happiness and fulfillment. It's not an arbitrary set of rules. So no matter how many times we have to repent and say, no more, I'm done with this, we just keep with it and, try to find good association and try to increase, like, another thing that can be done with repentance in addition to, or atonement, in addition to just kind of chastising oneself or kind of like feeling some sense of shame, is to do some kind of counteracting thing like do more of a certain spiritual activity. And the more we increase, the more we do these things, then we can gradually recondition our intelligence that it doesn't even want to go down those avenues anymore. That's the ultimate fruit of bhakti, is that our whole mind, our whole intelligence, our whole way of seeing the world totally transforms. Prabhupada, in his purport, he writes, so Purañjana, he's in his youth, he's in his prime. Prabhupada says, during youth, the sex impulse is awakened, and the intelligence, according to one's imagination, is prone to contact the opposite sex. In youth, a man or woman is in search of the opposite sex by intelligence or imagination, if not directly. So here he's kind of playing on this symbol of the woman as the intelligence to show that the man, even if a young man isn't able to directly encounter a beautiful woman, in his mind, in his dreams, in his contemplations, she's there. And I could really relate to that, because literally my whole all of my teenage years into my early 20s, until I just got totally burned on the romance thing. That was basically my mind's preoccupation was women and listening to music and reading books. And it was all about mundane romance. And so all of those years that I could have spent doing something that would actually help me in my adult life, learning some skill or learning qualities like discipline, the ability to set a goal and then achieve it, all of these things that are actually helpful things, helpful skills, helpful qualities. Instead, I was just contemplating women and wishing I had a girlfriend and listening to emo music and all these things, these like totally American teenage things. And so I appreciated this comment from Prabhupada, if not directly, at least in one's imagination, that the young man is always with the young woman. So in Vedic culture, they take a very proactive approach. That young boys are trained from the beginning to be sense controlled. And unfortunately, the Gurukula experiment in America kind of went awry, to put it mildly. But the principle is there, and we should appreciate the principle that for young men and for young women, that the period of 0 to 25, this period where we really come into our own sense of identity, and so much of our desires for our whole life are formed. Our trajectory for our whole life practically is formed during these initial years. That's such a valuable time, and it shouldn't be wasted on just frivolous sense gratification. It's like that's the total philosophy of America today. Is those are the best years of your life, so you have to enjoy the heck out of it, because you're never going to have the opportunity to just do rampant sense gratification ever again. So you got to do it now.
Sweet 16.
Now, yeah, sweet 16. Get it all out now, and it's just not. It's a lie. It's a total lie, because you'll just end up disappointed, and then your whole rest of your life will be nostalgia. Do you remember when? And it'll just be like a bad sitcom, like the same things over and over and over again, just rerun. Gosh, remember when we were like, yeah, man, gosh. And you take birth again, you get to do it again. But if you do the first part of your life correctly, and I was really blessed that at least I met Hare Krishna devotees when I was like 20, 21 going on 22. I got a few solid years of something, to help reorient me before, breaking that 20 into the 25 into 30 range, where kind of I can see, it's not as easy for me to, switch my habits, my daily schedule. I used to be able to pull an all-nighter easy, when I was young. Because we're malleable, you know, we're everything is more flexible. And when you get old, then, you know, even you hit 30 and things are just, it's not the same. You're more set in your ways. So youth is such a valuable time. And poor Purañjana didn't have that insight or direction. And so he's just kind of wandering aimlessly. And he met another person who's wandering aimlessly. So we'll go to the next text. Text 21. The woman was protected on all sides by a 5-hooded snake. That one's kind of hard. I won't make you guys guess with that one, unless anyone wants to guess. 5-hooded snake, maybe somebody remembers. What's the 5-hooded snake represent? It's 5 life airs. Prana. Prana has 5 types of. It's kind of hard.
My mind wasn't on Prana.
Yeah.
Well, then it mentions like 100 or something.
Here,
There might be 5 primaries.
yeah, there may be a bunch of sub life airs. But here Prabhupada writes, the vital force of the living entity includes the 5 kinds of air working within the body, which are known as prana, apana, dhyana, samana, and udana. He says the vital force is compared to a serpent because a serpent can live by simply drinking air. Interesting. Also, maybe, you know, snakes have kind of a protective, they're kind of fearsome, and the intelligence is protected by the life there, and also they're a 5-footed thing, you know. Can't think of many other creatures that have multiple heads, so it works well in the analogy, symbolism. And the Prabhupada writes, the woman who represents intelligence was searching after a husband. This indicates that intelligence cannot act without consciousness. I like this one. Because people today, they're trying to make the artificial intelligence, but they can't do it without consciousness. That this is just energy. It's just like my hand. You know, it's energy. It's not going to do anything unless I'm in it, like a glove. It's as silly as saying an artificial glove that's going to like do its own thing without having something inside to animate it. So the material energies are dependent on consciousness and ultimately on Krishna, the supreme consciousness. Krishna. And we already discussed this a little bit, but Vishnu Shri Thakur points out that just the woman was very beautiful, and she was decorated in so many ways, and that represents the different ways, the different impressions in our mind that we find very attractive. Everyone has a certain way of thinking, a way of seeing that really enamors them, and really it creates a very strong bond between the soul and the ahankar, or the subtle body, that we think, I'm great. I love the way I see the world. Even people who are depressed and who hate themselves, they say, they're still so enamored with their way of seeing that they don't give it up. You know, it's like, well, if you're so depressed, why don't you just, you know, if you think you're so lousy, why don't you just try a different way of thinking about things? No, because there's actually, it's a type of attraction, it's a type of addiction, our particular way of seeing the world. So this analogy of the intelligence as a beautifully decorated woman is very powerful to think about.
They write songs about it.
What's that?
About their vision of the world being so dark. They're so enamored.
Yeah, they're so enamored with it that they write the songs about it. You know. Yeah, it really struck me when I realized that my whole all of my youth was wasted in this like mood of unrequited love. And that was all I listened to. The music I listened to was that, like, talk about like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Maybe I actually liked it, But thankfully, even that can be dovetailed in Krishna consciousness. It's a potent mood to dovetail. Krishna. Yeah, that's good. That's the good kind of longing. All right. Text 22. The woman's nose, teeth, and forehead were all very beautiful. Her ears were equally very beautiful and were bedecked with dazzling earrings. So this is the different sense objects that the intelligence has that make it so attractive. It's like when you get inside of a new car. It has like a seat warmer. Ooh, that's pretty cool. It's got a sky roof. Wow, check that out. It can like super nice acceleration, really nice handling. All of these features that make the car so attractive and pleasing. So our intelligence similarly has really nice features. The sense of smell, the sense of taste, the sense of touch, the sense of sight. A nice forehead. What's that one? A clear brain capable of understanding things. Just this, we think, especially people who smoke marijuana, it puts you it enhances this tendency of the intelligence to just think, to admire its own brilliance. Because that was my experience. The intelligence.
Everything becomes so profound.
Yeah. And then you look at it later, it's like, well, that was dumb.
Most of it revolved around snacks.
Yeah, like combining this and that and thinking it's like the best breakthrough and sliced bread. So the intelligence, it has this feature that is kind of self-reflective, like it enhances its own beauty in the eye of the beholder, which is us. So it's something like a vehicle, the intelligence. We're riding around in it in this subtle body, and we really like it. We really like all the features, all the cool controls, and all the cool things that you can do. And so it's hard to become detached. And that's why death is so terrifying, is what about me? What will happen to me? And so therefore Prabhupada stressed, he hammered down on this point again and again and again, because it's actually a very elevated thing. He says, you're not that body. Because to really deeply internalize that means you're on the Brahman platform. You're liberated from the three modes. You're absorbed in Krishna. You have no attraction to the material energy because you're disidentified with it. So I liked kind of reflecting on the buddhi as like a vehicle and how it's the different features are so nice. It's very difficult to give up. Text 23.
Can you say what the face feature represent in intelligence? Or what aspect
Very
of
beautiful.
intelligence?
Ears were very equally very beautiful. The nose, forehead, ears, the face. Prabhupada writes, Sukapola, nice forehead, indicates a clear brain capable of understanding things as they are. So that was like the way that the intelligence, it has this way of kind of making us think that everything that it thinks is so amazing and so nice. That's like the forehead. The face, I don't know if it specifically emphasized the face. I could look at Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur's commentaries a little bit more like more of a bullet point, kind of, not literally, but in the sense of like, this is this, this is this, this is this. I can look at that maybe after the class and we can see if we can find something.
Yeah.
Prabhupada gives more of a detailed commentary going into, so I'm not seeing specifically where he says the mouth is the instrument for acquiring knowledge by taste or chewing, which I never really had. I guess I kind of have this. I sometimes bite my nails. That's kind of my chewing habit. Some people, they just chew gum, or cigarettes is like an oral fixation. There's a way in which just having something in the mouth or near the mouth is very satisfying. So all these different senses are instruments for enjoyment, and so everybody's got their own quirks, how they like to enjoy. Try to enjoy. Text 23, the waist and hips of the woman were very beautiful. She was dressed in a yellow sari with a golden belt. While she walked, her ankle bells rang. She appeared exactly like a denizen of the heavens. So here Vishnu Thakur says that the yellow sari represents the mode of passion. That it's our intelligence is actually colored. It's colored over. Like there's this saying, seeing the world through rose-colored glasses. We actually are seeing the world through the color of the modes, passion, ignorance. And as you practice Krishna consciousness, your intelligence becomes clear. You can actually see reality as it is. And you recognize there's really no pleasure here in the whole world. There's really no pleasure in this whole world. You can see for what it is. And so, but ordinarily living entities' intelligence is covered by passion. How am I going to enjoy? How am I going to enjoy? How am I going to enjoy? This real desperate eagerness for enjoyment. And the ankle bells, Vishnu Thakur says, represent the mind's, or the intelligence's unsteadiness in hearing scriptures, which I thought was nice. Because when a person walks with ankle bells, they're just like ding 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 ding. There's no like real rhythm or steadiness, or they run here and even there's apparently in the Sanskrit, Vishnu Thakur says that Nupurai, it's not just ankle bells, but there's even bells on the toes, he says.
Wow.
So we're not just dealing with two bells here. We got a lot of bells going on here. And so in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Bahu Shaka, that the intelligence is many branched. It's got so many things going on. And it's very difficult to just focus on one thing, like chanting or hearing scripture, because of all the different things that our intelligence has going on, which is in part due to contact with the mode of passion, which is expanding energy, versus the more we can develop sattva, then the more our intelligence and mind will feel content to just have one thing going on. It's like my friend from college, he moved to New York, and I would visit him when I visited the New York Harinam, and I would kind of ask him how his life, what's going on, and he goes, oh, everybody in New York has their thing, like the thing that they came to New York to do, because you can only do it in New York, and you're going to become famous doing it. Whether it's nonprofit work or film or dance or writing or acting or business, you don't just work a job in New York. You've got something that makes you important and worthwhile,
A sense of something.
a sense of something, at least plans for something.
That's
Yeah. Plans at least, and not just one either. Several things that you've got going on that give your life some zest and some meaning. So, but in the country, they're happy. They go to their job, they come home, they watch TV, they eat a meal, they go to bed, they wake up. They have no pretension of being important people. And in one sense, that's to their credit because it's closer to the truth. So that's the mode of goodness. Even though most people in the country today, they're far from the mode of goodness, but the principle is that passion it's from the mode of passion that we have so many things. And goodness is the ability to really just accept a very simple lifestyle, at least internally, even if for the sake of service, we may be doing many things like Srila Prabhupada and many of our spiritual masters, they're very active, doing many different things. But internally, they have this conception, I'm just a simple servant. I'm very simple. And really, I'm only doing one thing. I'm just serving my spiritual master. Even though he asked me to do this, and he asked me to do this, and he asked me to do this, but really I'm just doing one thing, it's service to my spiritual master. And so when the spiritual master asks, now it's time to chant your rounds, maybe not actually, but the principle is, okay, now Guru Dev wants me to chant my rounds. You just sit and you chant. Because that's the time to do the rounds. And when you time to read, then you read. And the servant is very peaceful and happy and able to focus because they're not enamored with this materialistic intelligence that has ankle, even toe bells, not just ankle bells. I appreciated that from Vishnu Thakur. Unsteadiness in hearing and chanting. Text 24. Here it is. With the end of her sari, the woman was trying to cover her breasts, which were equally round and well placed side by side. She again and again tried to cover them out of shyness, while she walked exactly like a great elephant. So the Prabhupada writes, the two breasts represent attachment and envy in the symbol. This is the symbol of the thing. And they were... Well, the reason is because I was trying to think of, for a man, a woman, because there's a few places in the Bhagavatam where it says, it's not just that the woman represents material existence to a man, but the man represents material existence to a woman. And so I can't really, like attachment and envy, like it doesn't really, on me, So I was trying to think of like the, for a male equivalent. And doesn't really, maybe, the two, or like the two shoulders, maybe, or like the two big arms.
Abs.
Yeah. Of course, that's 6, not 2. But yeah. Anyway, we can work. We can work with that. And it's described here in the verse that they were very full breasts, and they were contiguous, nice cleavage. And Vishnu Thakur points out that this contiguity, or the cleavage that they were kind of pressed together, represents that attachment and aversion are actually one thing. They're actually one thing. They just appear to be two different things, but it's really one principle. This now I'm going to enjoy. Oh no, I don't want to do it. Now I'm going to enjoy it, because the whole motive is how to experience selfish pleasure. And that principle of pursuing selfish pleasure sometimes manifests as attraction, sometimes manifests as aversion. But the whole time it's just a selfish thing. So Prabhupada has some nice comments here for his hippie 20-something disciples on this topic. He says, these representatives of attachment and envy are very much unfavorable for advancement in spiritual life. Wherever you go, and it was happening then and it's happening now, breasts are everywhere. Everywhere, breasts. They even have doctors who can give you bigger breasts, or sometimes give you smaller breasts if you want them to be just the right size. And they're on billboards. I was saying the other day, so you go buy a can of paint, there's breasts. Everything, breasts. And so Prabhupada's hammering down, they're unfavorable. Seeing them, thinking about them, touching them, unfavorable for a spiritual life. One should not be attracted by the breasts of young women. The great Saint Shankaracharya has described the breasts of women, especially young women, as nothing but a combination of muscles and blood. So one should not be attracted by the illusory energy of raised breasts with nipples.
Don't meditate on breasts.
Don't meditate on breasts. You know who also has breasts? Pigs. They have multiple nipples. Cows. The udder That's like their breast. That's where the milk comes from. So there's different ways you can kind of, this is a type of like jnana yoga, really, to contemplate about the material energy in this more intellectual way that naturally creates detachment. That can be favorable. Just like karma yoga, we do so much karma yoga. Jnana yoga also can be helpful. Like Shankaracharya, he's quoting, actually the body is just muscles, blood,
Good beauty.
like liquid beauty, exactly. Prabhupada gives the story of this woman who, this man was so attracted to her, and then she says, "Oh, fine, I'm willing to accept you as my partner, but just come back, give me a week to prepare myself." And so he comes back in a week, and she's taken laxatives and passed so much stool, and she's taken purgatives and vomited up all of her food and kept it in these jars. And she's so emaciated. She's a real sadhu, She's so emaciated that the man comes back and doesn't even recognize her. Excuse me, where's that beautiful young girl? And she's like, hello, here I am.
Yeah.
Oh, what? You didn't really like me, huh? You just like my body, huh? That happens. Women get old, or men get old, and then the partner wants to go find some younger partner because the body got old. It's not good anymore. Doesn't do the trick for me anymore. That happens. So the woman didn't look like the same woman, so he says, what happened? Where's your beauty? And she says, well, let me get it for you. I've got the pure essence, of my beauty I've saved
The
for
nectar.
you. You can just take that, and I'll stay here. Doesn't that sound great? You don't have to deal with, having an actual partner. You can just have the beauty. He's kind of interested now. And so she comes back, and it's this revolting stuff, because that's the material body. That's the material body. And you have to do so much to cover up the revolting nature of the material body. So much just to the smells and the sounds, everything about it. You really need to cover it up and pretend. And then so that's why as the bodies get old in our society, we just section them away. All the old people, we shuffle them away out of sight, out of mind. And we don't even really visit them, hardly. So this type of contemplation, this type of jnana yoga is very helpful to just really recondition our intelligence that has been conditioned by mass media, Hollywood, the books that we've read. That's where we've gotten our ideas for enjoyment. It didn't come from us. So taking more active control over the matter can be very helpful. And Srila Prabhupada is encouraging us to do that. Prabhupada writes on this purport, the word niguhantim, trying to cover, indicates, so she's trying to cover her breasts, the woman with her sari, indicates that even if one is tainted by kama, lobha, krodha, etc., they can be transfigured by Krishna consciousness. In other words, one can utilize kama for serving Krishna. Being impelled by lust, an ordinary worker will work hard day and night. Similarly, a devotee can work hard day and night to satisfy Krishna. Just as karmis are working hard to satisfy kama and krodha, a devotee should work hard in the same way to satisfy Krishna. So it's not that we give up, the jnana yoga is nice, but then we don't want to go so extreme that we give up all activity, all sense of identity, and we just write off the whole material world as empty. A devotee sees the material world, and at the same time they're detached from it from an enjoying perspective. They see unlimited opportunities for preaching, for service to Krishna. It's great. For a devotee, the material world and the spiritual world, it's like whatever, either one, just let me have some service. So we don't want to become impersonal or excessively averse to material existence, we want to recognize that all of our emotions, all of our desires, everything can be dovetailed. At the same time, there's a hierarchy, and certain things will be more favorable and certain things will be less favorable. So as we advance, we will more frequently accept the more favorable things. For example, good example. Like you can watch YouTube videos of devotees and stuff, or scroll on Facebook and see devotees pages and devotees posts, but really you're procrastinating your rounds. But at least you're not procrastinating your rounds with, total Maya. It's like it's dovetailed. It's devotional stuff, but you're putting off the more important thing, the higher thing. And as we advance, we develop more taste, and we learn to let go of the lower practice of devotional service and adopt the higher, right? All right, so this is the last text, text 25. Purañjana, the hero, became attracted by the eyebrows and smiling face of the very beautiful girl, who was immediately pierced by the arrows of her lusty desires. When she smiled shyly, she looked very beautiful to Purañjana, who, although a hero, could not refrain from addressing her. So this is a good image and explanation for how the living entity becomes attached and entangled with the subtle body and the material intelligence and this material identity. Is the intelligence seems so attractive that the jiva is the enjoying spirit of the jiva is aroused. It's really, we don't really start to feel lust for a person unless we start to think that they're feeling lust for us. It's like their desires pierce us like an arrow, and these are said to be like the arrows of Cupid. In his commentary, Vishnu Thakur says that the arrows pierced Purañjana, the arrows of the woman's lusty desires pierced Purañjana to the shaft. It wasn't just a flesh wound, it was all the way in.
Shaft means like the
shaft of the arrow. Shaft means like there's the tip of the arrow. Even if that goes in, that hurts. But the shaft of the arrow, it goes all the way in.
Mm-hmm.
Just maybe the little tail feathers are sticking out of the body.
Makes it, from my
How do you get that out?
video game knowledge, like it makes it like harder to pull it out.
That's right, because an arrow has the hook just for that reason, so that you can't pull it out without inflicting more
And they'll
of an
design like
injury.
barbed ones.
That's right, barbed arrows with multiple points. So this is the worst kind of arrow, the arrow of lust. And when you get hit by that, it doesn't just go skim the flesh, unless you're really advanced and you know how to just immediately shut it off. It goes all the way in to the shaft. And also, our acharyas point out, Prabhupada points out that this interaction, it shows that our implication in the material energy is not forced. It's not that Krishna is forcing it on us. That the material energy is presenting this attractive option. Hey, why don't you try to enjoy me? Why don't you try to enjoy me? Look how beautiful I am. It gives you the smile and batting the eyelashes, or for a woman, maybe it's the big, Maya Devi comes out as the big armed Hulk man, kind of, or whatever,
I think it was also
Hare Krishna.
These days it goes all different.
Everything,
Yeah.
everything. And it, why don't you enjoy me? Come on and enjoy me. Just come on and enjoy me. It'll be so great. And that arouses the enjoying mentality in the jiva, who voluntarily becomes implicated. So it's not that Krishna is forcing material life on us. At any moment, we could realize this is not helping me, This is not making me happy. This is not taking me in a place I want to go. This is just taking me through repeated birth and death. I'm done. I'm giving it up. I'm going to Krishna. We could make that choice. It's not like we need some special divine permission. Krishna has given the permission. In the Bhagavad Gita, he says, you should surrender to me. And now it's on us to just do that. I have a friend, he gave up practicing bhakti. His excuse is, well, Krishna didn't give me enough inspiration.
Yes.
I'm just waiting for Krishna to give me more inspiration. I said, well, how's this? I'm telling you to do it. I'm advising you, maybe Krishna sent me to advise you to do it. Talk about direction and help, So it's not that Krishna is in control of our will. We have that much independence, and it's on us to actually exercise it in the proper way. So we don't want to be like Purañjana, just aimlessly wandering around. Prabhupada writes that I'll just read it here. Every living entity is a hero in two ways. When he's a victim of the illusory energy, he works as a great hero in the material world, as a great leader, politician, businessman, industrialist, etc. And his heroic activities contribute to the material advancement of civilization. One can also become a hero by being a master of the senses, a Goswami. There are two types of heroes. The hero of the material energy, which is actually fake, not real heroism. You're actually just imitating Krishna. Krishna's the real hero. Or you can be a hero by being a master of the senses. And this is the conclusion of Krishna in the Uddhava Gita, 11th canto. He says, real heroism means conquering the desire for sense gratification. Because that's the real enemy, is our desire to be a false enjoyer. And when we conquer that, then we prove that we actually are heroic. We have good qualities. And that quality means I am a servant of Krishna. So the real hero means one who is accepted that I am a servant. Prabhupada writes, the living entity can take one of two positions in this world. He may become a servant of his senses, or he may become a master of them. By becoming a servant of the senses, one becomes a great material hero. And by becoming a master of the senses, he becomes a Goswami, a spiritual hero. So Narada Muni is given this definition of bhakti. Sarvapadi vinirmuktam tatparat vena nirmalam hrishikena hrishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchate. That by engaging one's senses in the master of the senses, in service to the master of the senses, then we actually are practicing devotional service and we become like heroes. Hare Krishna. Jai. Jai. We've got Garrison Peru, Hare Krishna, Jessica, Hare Krishna.
There's a
One
question here.
question. It seems that there may be a limit to Gyan, like it says somewhere that intelligence can be stolen by illusion. Hare Krishna, CMP Das, Hare Bol. That's in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 62 or 63. That when one's intelligence becomes implicated in material desires, then his intelligence is lost. And he falls into the pool of bewilderment. Yeah, there's a limit to Gyan. There's definitely a limit to Gyan. But Gyan has a vital role in bhakti. So when we practice bhakti yoga supported by proper Gyan and proper karma, in the final verse, text 55 of the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada comments there that you can do Krishna karma. When you do activities for the service of Krishna, that's Krishna karma, and it's transcendental. It's action. Karma just means action, but when we act for the pleasure of Krishna, that's bhakti yoga. But the principle of karma, the principle of activity, it's not mundane karma, it's transcendental karma. So similar with Gyan. When we study Srimad Bhagavatam, when we learn all these symbols, when we hear about the activities of the different living entities, the different great devotees, and so on, it's a type of Gyan, it's a type of knowledge, but it's transcendental. So that's actually not limited, as long as bhakti is the predominant principle. All right. Any final comments, questions? Yeah.
I really appreciated this class because it actually really lined up with yesterday during Gita Circle. We read chapter 15. We spent quite a bit of time. There was a devotee who had expressed like how to be fixed and like kind of struggling with that and why the mind, why that we all struggle with that in general. And so we had a really nice discussion. And then at the end of that, I also realized happiness and distress. Krishna mentioned that quite a few times in quite a few verses.
Yeah.
And so I thought, like, wow, that must be pretty important because in the Bhagavad Gita, everything is intentional. There's not one thing in there that's put in there just because,
Yeah.
just to make it look nice. Like, everything is very intentional.
Yeah.
And so the fact that happiness and distress is in there, I think that was really cool. It's the third time that I remember hearing it in a verse
Yeah.
as of chapter 15.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes up often, this principle of being equipoised, being unattached, even in happiness and distress. It's easier to remember to be detached when you're suffering, because you want relief from that, and so you feel, well, okay, maybe I'll just try to be detached. But when we're happy, it's more difficult to recognize the value of detachment, that to recognize that this material happiness is also fleeting. And so, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Francesca. Hare Krishna. All right. So we're a little over time. Thank you for tolerating. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Hare Krishna.